All right. Happy Sunday. Welcome back to another edition of our Go Rush Weekly Watch List. I have a few names to some new ones, right? We always usually keep the same, just about the same names on his watch list, just because some of these setups are so strong, right? No reason to try to look for new setups when we can keep playing the same ones over and over again, the ones that keep paying us. But there are some changes in this week's list, as you'll see. But let's go ahead and get right into it. Let's see. Just taking a look at the economic calendar. There's not much going on. I mean, Nvidia CEO speaking tomorrow at Snowflake's Summit 2023 event. So I expect for Snowflake and Nvidia to potentially react to whatever they got going on during that conference. Looking at the earnings calendar. Not major, but we do have Carnival Cruise Lines at the very start of the day at the open. And then we have, just looking at some of these names here, Nike reports this week, Walmart, MU reports this week. Let's see, BlackBerry reports, Jeffries. What else? And some of these other names I am not aware of. So some decent names. I mean, there might be something with MU there. Walmart's is always fun to trade whenever it gives you a setup. Nike's always an interesting one to watch. And CCL, obviously. CCL is interesting because I do have a few of names across that industry within the watch list this week. So I think that CCL might be a good potential catalyst for a move in the industry. But we'll see. We'll see what happens tomorrow. So let's get it going. So I got SPX weekly. This is a weekly candlestick. And we formed an inside week. The range of, we weren't able to break the range of the previous week's candlestick. So, and listen, last week was just an extremely tough week to trade. I think, Monday and Tuesday were, let me just go into it real quick. Monday, it gave you the gap up, trapped a bunch of bulls there, and then gave you a nice red day. And just dojied into the pretty much nice, small, slow, calculated, disgusting, choppy movement working its way down, right? We even got a gap down with a nice green day on Thursday, but ended the week off with a doji. So, and you look at the week, and overall you got an inside week, and you got a red candle on an inside week, but it was just a very, very tough week to trade. You had to really nail your entries and exits last week. So I would trade cautiously, especially now that you'll see going into the next ticker, QQQ is showing just a little bit of weakness. I mean, it's nothing crazy, nothing we haven't seen before, right? We had the inside week here, double inside week actually before we broke down. A couple of inside weeks. We had an inside week this week with another one kind of, little upper range break before the 20 caught up to it, and then price pushed up rapidly, right? So this might be, the next couple of weeks of this might be just kind of slowing down, catching its breath, trying to figure out which direction it wants to go in with QQQ. So I would trade cautiously. I wouldn't go. And again, we're in our last week of our small account challenge. I think that if anything, this challenge has taught us that there's power in taking profits very quickly. 20% is, we've been making 20% on like 75% of our trades very, very easily, right? So, if you've been just hammering that 20% profit and sell, then you're in a much better position than you were at the beginning of the month, right? If you hold for some of these longer home runs, maybe you hit, maybe you didn't. It really depends. But, I think that based on what's going on here, based on what's going on with Russia, at the moment, I think that we should trade cautiously, defensively, right? Especially now that if you look at QQQ, this line here at 364.42, you see there's a bunch of buying and selling going on at this line, right? It's acted as support and resistance a bunch. And though we broke out of it a couple of weeks back, this past week we weren't able to hold it when we pulled back. So I think that's going to be another crucial level. I think we're going to come back to that level. Let's go to the daily real quick. I think we come back to the level, and well, we did come back to it and test it on Thursday and Friday. We did kind of form a green candlestick on Friday in tech. However, there's I'm not getting a bunch of strength here, right? I mean, you can see the trend intact here. We have a higher highs and higher lows throughout this entire move. This can also just be a higher low. So let's just keep that in mind. I mean, I would just, trade very cautiously. Look for range breaks. The clean breaks of these highs are going to give you the upside targets. And then same thing with the downside. You break the downside of Thursday's candlestick, we can target that 20-day moving average pretty quickly. And that might be healthy. It might be healthy for it to come back down to this line here at 357.50 and then kind of build momentum sideways before it continues up, right? So it looks like it's just forming a higher low for now. All I see right now at this point is just the trend is still intact. Nothing of too much concern. Futures opened up slightly. So let's see what happens at the open. But, QQQ, we did form an inside week. Same thing with SPX. We did form an inside week. And so we want to see, is this a resting bar? Is this kind of a consolidation bar for a continuation? Or is this the start of a reversal, right? So if we break the range of this week's candlestick to the downside, then we can potentially think about the beginning of some pullback, healthy pullback, maybe back into this level here where this doji formed at 354. Otherwise, there might be a continuation, but we won't know. We just got to play what's in front of us, right? So SPX and QQQ, same exact setup. I would just kind of, go slowly. Don't get too bullish or too bearish. Just kind of go slowly and see what the market gives you. Next one's XLE. XLE was looking, I was looking for a bounce here at support, and we kind of had it at the beginning of the week. But XLE finally broke this downtrend, this rising support level. Right, it's held a bunch of weeks back to back to back. Now, what can happen this week is, and the same thing that can happen with everything, right? Stocks go up and stocks go down. So this can try to reclaim that support level very quickly. In which case, it'll be like a 2-week hammer at the bottom of a support line, right? Or it can continue to fall and try to test some of these lower levels here at 75.36 is the level I would love to test before either continuing up or maybe breaking down. And whatever would happen, I think at this level would be a strong move, right? Nice strong move into a small gap on the weekly chart over here between October, end of September and early October candlestick here. So good gap if we do flush into this level. Otherwise, from there, we can potentially bounce and put in a strong candle as this looks like it might be a potential area of demand, right? You see how this, when it was here, kind of made a nice push up. It came back, it gapped down below and then pushed strongly up from this level. Same thing in the past here, kind of pushed up from this level. So the potential demand here or breakdown into fill this gap on XLE. So I'm going to be watching XLE this week. XLF. XLF went into the 200-day moving average a couple of weeks ago. It opened up above it for the first time since March, right? A couple of weeks ago on Friday, or was this Monday? Oh, this is Friday. This was last Friday, and it couldn't hold it, and it fell hard underneath it, and it came right back down to the 50-day moving average. Right now, it looks like it's holding the 50-day moving average on a daily. So if it does continue to hold that, then I would like to target the high of, and I mean, it would just bring us right back into that box, right? You see pretty much where this candlestick started. It's just a bunch of consolidation there, right? We kind of broke out above it, came back, retested it on this candlestick, gapped out of it on this candlestick, and then rejected the 200-day right back into this zone. So, we broke the range to the upside, came back to the zone. Are we breaking the range to the downside to potentially hold support here to come back to the zone, or are we going to continue to flush down? Now, if we do get a nice little flush down, I wouldn't be mad at it only because we got this level right here where we bounced. And then underneath that, we got the low of this day, and then we got a nice little gap into $32. So nice setup either way. Now, I wouldn't love to play to the upside only because there's so much traffic here. Look at all this price action that's sitting here, all this indecision between buyers and sellers in this green box. Whereas we have a nice little gap underneath here that can potentially fill this nice gap with a nice red candlestick. So, so let's see. And this is, what is this? This is XLF. So JP Morgan was one of the names that we've been watching for quite some time. I'm just going to quickly go to JP Morgan. It's not on the watch list for this week, but I was looking at the 140 above this 143.84 level. And I know Jake called out a play for it. And, I love the play. However, unfortunately, the market wasn't set up to give us this inverse head and shoulders breakout move, right? I was looking for 150 above that 143.84 level. nice 2 or 3 day move into 150, but we got the exact opposite. But same thing, JPM is sitting right at that 50-day moving average support. So let's see what happens with JP Morgan. There might be a nice, and you have the same little gap down over here, right, between this candlestick and this candlestick. The gap hasn't fully filled. I mean, we kind of tested it, but I would love to see some volume form, like a candlestick form right here. Otherwise, we have a nice bounce in to try to retrace the day on Thursday for JP Morgan and for the rest of XLF. So now let's get into the watch list. And I don't have too many names, so start thinking about I have a lot of names, but we're gonna go through them very quickly. But start thinking about some names that you guys want to discuss towards the middle or the end of this call. So Nvidia, if we look at Nvidia, let's go to the weekly real quick. I mean, Nvidia is just all about perspective at this point, right? We had a nice strong move with acceleration into the top here. Good pullback all year long into October with a nice impulsive move up, formed a higher low. We got a potential inverse head and shoulders that form here on Nvidia, and then a nice breakout move with a strong acceleration, especially on these couple of weeks, right? So a little bit of a pullback. I think this was an earnings gap up, right? But a little bit of a pullback. It didn't fall into the earnings gap down. Let's go to the daily real quick. We held this gap even on the push down, even with like AMD doing what it's doing and like ASML doing what it's doing, moving down very swiftly. Nvidia continues to show strength. So what I did was I measured the move from the top of this candlestick here to the bottom of this candlestick here, which is this swing low to high. And I want to see it hold this 400 and what level is that? I can't really see from here. Let's see. I can't see from here. 480, 415, let's call it. Let's see if Nvidia can hold that 415 level, retrace some of this move, but hold where strength matters. You see the 20-day creeping up, so it can potentially meet the 20-day around here and find support at that 618 Fibonacci level, where this previous resistance was, right? So there's a little bit of a confluence there in terms of a spot where Nvidia might want to turn around and get some strength. And again, tomorrow there's the CEO is speaking at the Snow conference. So there might be something that they say within that conference that gives Nvidia bulls or bears active control of the price action. So we'll be watching it. I think if Nvidia is going to partner with Snow, or they're just going to go talk about AI, I think that it's they're super bullish right now, and I think that the run is going to continue for Nvidia personally. But there is weakness in some of the other names of the sector, as you'll see within the watch list. Next one's Marvell. Marvell is one of those that's kind of showing weakness right now. Now, we do have this massive gap up from earnings, and we've come back to test the gap, and buyers came in and brought it back up. We were forming this higher high and higher low trend until we broke down here and worked our way into the 20-day. We came back and retested the 20-day on Thursday, and then gapped down, just like the rest of the market did on Friday, and formed this hammer. Right now, this hammer, I like hammers at the bottom of price, but I'm not in love with it right now. There's a potential for this hammer to easily break down. Actually, it's fine. I would check the volume on this. I don't know if let me just go to quickly add the volume. Do I have volume on this? Volume, no volume. To add volume to this. I haven't been using volume too much in my trading. Also, lots of volume on that candlestick. I haven't been using too much volume in my trading. I've been using more the volume profile, and I'll do like a daily volume profile. So I'll see, if you ever see my charts, there's like a green line, and that kind of shows you where all the volume's concentrated across price. So do I have it on this chart? I think is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. So let's go to like the 30-minute, for example. You see this green line. This is where all the volume is concentrated for the day, pretty much. So price always likes to kind of come back to this volume level and react to it sometimes, right? So that's the volume that I've been using. But you see a lot of volume coming into Marvell. Obviously, the biggest candlestick was on the gap up for earnings right after, and everyone just bought it up like crazy. And then like, look at how much volume is making sure that this price stays where it's at. So there's some conviction in this move. I do like it. I would love to see Marvell above the high of day to try to retest the high of this candlestick here. And there's a potential pivot machine gun loading on Marvell. Let me get rid of all these levels real quick. Remove drawings. Right above this high, we have this high, this high, this high. Just clean, you know, so we can get, if we get enough conviction, we can get a nice move, taking out all these short stops straight through that 20-day. And it might be a weekly candlestick, right? Who knows? But I do like Marvell. I'm a little bit more convinced on this hammer now that I see all this volume. However, if it does start to break down, I mean, you have all this open air down here, right? You'd have to, the last time you'd see some price at these levels would be on the weekly, you know, so there is some traffic here at 55. There's some traffic here at 54.82, a little bit of traffic over here at 52. So I wouldn't be too convinced that it dives straight through, but you will get a nice downside move. I like it better to the upside, especially with this potential pivot machine gun loading here. So Marvell is one of the names showing weakness in that sector that is shared with NVIDIA. But let's see what happens this week. Tesla is currently loading a 60-minute, a 1 hour inverse head and shoulders. Let me go ahead and hide that. Let me go ahead and draw the trend line, the potential neckline, right? Something there. Maybe there's better. So it's right at the neckline. I mean, you know, it's holding up its current trend line support. But if it does break down, you know, we did form a high here. We came back down to the trend line. We did accelerate form a higher high, and back to, you know, decelerated strong acceleration downside to the trend line. And then we came back up, not quite as strong of a move as any of these two, you know, this day or this day. But we did form a lower high, and now we're back at the trend line. And so, you know, that's the technical aspect of it. We can easily break down and come back to maybe 240 or so. You know, what you're supposed to do with this is you're supposed to measure the depth from the head down to the neckline, and then take that and measure the breakdown. That's the kind of where your target is. I don't see this thing going all the way back to 225. I think we can probably get to 240 based on where we're at. You know, a nice strong downside move, a nice red day in the market will give us 240. With that 20-day moving average will probably catch us as support for Tesla. Let's look at the daily real quick on it. You know, but then if this rising support level holds here, and we can reclaim that 257.50, then 260 is right back in the cards for Tesla. I mean, there's no doubt about it, right? And you know, we did get that bearish engulfing day here on Wednesday, but with some strength, we can easily undo the price of this candlestick in 1 or 2 days. So either way, there's a nice setup for Tesla. Now, if we do break down below the low of Thursday, we can try to test the low of this candlestick here at, where is it? Test this candlestick here, 247.44-ish. Actually, let me just magnet 247.29. And then underneath that, we can test the 244, you know, just the lows. And then we have a nice little gap to the downside. I don't know if we're going to fill that gap. I mean, you know, I think 240 is probably the lowest that we go to based on where that price looks on the 1 hour and where the 20-day moving average might meet it at. But Tesla's going to be on a high watch, depending on, especially, you know, and especially since we got the inside day range, you know, the range of the previous day wasn't broken on Friday. So whichever way we go, we can get a nice move. Next one is Netflix. Let's look at Netflix. I think it was the weekly. Yeah. So we have an inside bar on the weekly. Price could not decide where to go on the weekly chart. Now we are kind of slowing down, you know, nice strong 6 back-to-back weeks of making higher highs and higher lows. This past week, we formed a higher low with a lower high, which shows that price is contracting. Now what we want to see is, you know, same thing. We want to see either price break above the high of the previous high of last week into the previous week's high, or break down below and go into the previous week's low, right? Now, the lows are so close and there was such a strong bounce that I think there's a potential for this to try to work its way. You know, it came to the bottom. It opened here, tested the top, came down to the bottom, and now it's back in the middle. So now it depends. To me, it looks like, and let's go into the daily real quick to look at it. Yeah, I mean, it came up to the top, down to the bottom. It formed a doji on Thursday. Formed a doji on Thursday, and then gave us a bullish engulfing on Friday. So this leads me to believe that we're going to try to come back up to test some of these higher levels. I want to see it break into about 50% of this candlestick, this red candlestick here. You guys must think I'm colorblind or something because I'm like red candlestick, green candlestick. Oh man. But you know what I mean. This down candlestick. And then so that's about 50% of it, and then I want to see it obviously with strength test the top of it. Let's remove all these drawings. I don't need all these drawings in my chart. Go back to the weekly. You see, like the lows are so close. There's no reason why I can't go back and try to test the highs, right? Especially with that nice little bounce that it gave us towards the end of the week. So I want to see some follow through here, break above day high, and then work its way into this candlestick. Get above 4. Let me just draw it out here. Use my fib tool to measure this candle. My 50% mark is 428.55. So we want to. I thought I was colorblind. My monitor is broken. That's what it is. You know, so we want to get above that 428.55 level in order to show strength with Netflix. And just looking at it, I mean, you know, let's look at it from like the perspective of a trend, right? I mean, higher lows and higher highs this whole time, right? Higher lows and higher highs. This is just a higher low so far, right? The previous low is right here. So this is just a higher low so far. Same thing pretty much everywhere except for some, you know, some of these like, what was it? TSM. Oh, Marvell. Yeah, Marvell's forming kind of, you know, this was a low. Now it's forming a new lower low. Here's your lower high, right? So like Marvell's kind of acting a little bit funny. Tesla still uptrend still intact, right? Netflix uptrend still intact. So I don't see any reason for this to really fail right now. I like the risk reward to the upside better versus the downside because we do have support here from Thursday's candlestick. We have support here from this bouncy candle, 2 days worth of buyers sitting there. We do have a nice little gap to the downside, but we also have that 20-day moving average that can potentially act as support. So to me, I think this has more upside in its future. Let's look at the news real quick on it. TV usage drops in May, but streams keep rolling. They stopped sharing their Netflix password. It broke up their family. Wow, Netflix is out here wrecking homes. Crazy. Insane. All right, so let's see what do we have next, and then we have earnings on Netflix in the 3rd week of July, so just a couple weeks out, right? 3 weeks out or so. So there's a potential for a run up, and I don't know, I mean, listen, I'm trained by the people who say, hey, when there's earnings, there's a potential for an earnings run up. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. I mean, there really is no way of telling, right? Look at this one. We had earnings. We had a pullback for earnings, right? We had, I mean, here we had a nice little run up, and then at the beginning of the day, at the beginning of the week, we had a pullback into earnings. So like, whatever. I don't know. Just let price do what it does. You have your levels. I want to see it above that 428.55 for strength, and that's it. Take it day by day. Why stress it, right? Next one is Twilio. I like Twilio a lot on the. It's very ugly on the daily, right? Just freeze my chart. Let's give it a second. Yeah, it's very, very ugly on the daily. I mean, it does have like kind of a double top situation going on here. Price is way down here. The weekly is much better in my opinion. The weekly is much better in my opinion. The reason why I like it is because it's just flagging, right? It's very clear bull flag here, right? Here's your flagpole, bull flag. You got a double bottom, right? Or a failed downside triple tap. It really depends on how you see it. But I like that price is consolidating at this pivot. Strong weekly pivot. You know, there seems to be a bunch of indecision this 4 back-to-back weeks. And then these 2 weeks here, strong fight between buyers and sellers. Buyers took it for just a week and then sellers took it home, right? And brought it right back into this demand zone here. So now it looks like we're back at that level where buyers and sellers are fighting. Price is contracting. It is staying within the same range, but I mean, look at how big this candle was, and now look at how small this candle is. So and the highs are getting slightly lower. The lows are kind of sticking around where they are, right? But I see a nice strong potential bull flag breaking to this 76.21 to retest this this supply zone, which, so break up and then can send this way back down again, or just break right through it, depending on what's going on with the sector. Twilio is in the services industry, and so I think that what happens with Nvidia and Snow tomorrow and this week might affect Twilio directly, right? So if like Snow goes up, I think Twilio will also go up. So that'll be very interesting to see. And then looking at the daily chart, the only thing that I see on this daily chart really is, we're in this downward channel. So break the channel, get above that 20-day moving average. The goal is the 20-day moving average. Underneath the 20-day moving average, I don't want it. I'm going to go ahead and set an alert there. I just want to see it break above that 20-day moving average. Twilio, when you do play it and it does move, it gives you some nice moves. I think the last time we caught it was, I remember catching it on like a very strong day. I think like we bought it here and like it was like one of these days. So I'm hoping that we can capitalize on that once more for Twilio. Next one is LRCX. Same thing. LRCX is ugly on the daily. The weekly is also very ugly. However, I do like this kind of, indecisively kind of strong move. Big candlestick here, inside bar, break to the upside, inside bar, and then massive move up, massive strong move up. To me, this looks like a temperature check, right? Strong move up and then works its way back down, forming a bunch of dojis. Sellers are in, and one thing I noticed, and I learned this watching SPX, and every ticker does it. It doesn't matter the time frame. You can always kind of see what it is, right? It always shows a time when buyers are in control and sellers are in control. Right now with Twilio, with LRCX, sellers are in control. Now you do see that these are dojis, so there's not much going on here. Sellers aren't letting price go above, right? Now there's such thing as a strong bearish momentum and a weak bearish momentum, right? Strong bullish momentum, weak bullish momentum. The momentum is very clearly bearish to me based on the price action. We have this strong move down to set the range. We have this high, we have this high, and then we have a lower high. It looks like a kind of a head and shoulders if we do the daily, right? Potential head and shoulders with this high here, a higher high, and then slightly lower high. That being said, let's go back to the weekly. That being said, with all that strength, 4 back-to-back red weeks, and all they could do is bring it into about 50% of this candlestick. Like bears haven't really undid this move, right? So, yes, the bears are in control right now. However, I think that like the buyers are like playing with their food. Buyers are going to turn it on and I think rip this thing to the upside. I have an ultimate target of 726.49 on this, based on a measure move from this impulse right here, this breakout move, little consolidation, continuation into whatever that number is. And right now, once the sellers are tired, I think that buyers are going to show them where LRCX can really go. Let's go back to it. Yeah, I've been really reluctant to identify a play for LRCX, even though it gives you some nice, like this was a very nice day, low of 598, high of 624. So a $26 day will pay out for anybody, right? I want to see it above this 630 level, because above 630 we can challenge the high of the move at 644, and it can do that in 2 days, right? It can get there in 2 days, and then above this level right around 650. From there we can accelerate up to 700. So I'm gonna go ahead and set my alert around here, right here. And if you like LRCX, and if you catch it, we catch the price action properly, we can get a nice move like this, like a nice move where you can swing for a day or two. So that's what I'm looking for. I don't want to get caught up on buy it on this day and then the next day it's flat. I want a nice, like a buy it on a Tuesday, sell it on a Friday type thing. So we'll see what happens with LRCX. Pinterest weekly is very, very beautiful. You know, the end of a strong downside move. The end of a strong downside move. Inside bar, break to the upside of the previous range, break to the upside of all of this resistance. Resting bar pullback. Big sell candle, which showed us that there was a potential for this uptrend to end. However, it did not. We formed the inside bar, and now we formed the higher high. So Pinterest is just very strong right now. You know, there's not much else to be said about it. Let me remove all these drawings. There's not much else to be said about it. I do want to see this gap fully filled, which means I want this wick to have a candlestick, a body in it, not just a wick, but a body. And I expect for Pinterest to reject this area pretty hard. I expect this area to be an area of rejection, only because I'm sure that there's some unfulfilled sell order sitting in this area, especially with this big gap down, right? So so let's just keep that on watch. Otherwise, I mean, this is like nice cup handle breakout, higher high, you know, higher highs and higher lows, whatever, however it is that it looks to you. But I want to see it reclaim the top of this, you know, this wick and all this price action. I want to see it go back up and fill this up, and then work within the range of these two lines here. So I'll be watching Pinterest this week. Costco weekly. Costco weekly, as you know, I've been talking about this thing for months now. It's just been forming this nice clean wedge on price, and it's breaking out slowly, right? Now let's look at these candlesticks. I think that there's going to be a very, very strong move in Costco. Now, this has been breaking out, and obviously, like if you caught it down here at, you know, at 470, what was it, 476.75, and you've been holding swings or shares or whatever ever since, you're getting paid, obviously. But you know what I want is I want to see like a strong week like this, right? Like this candlestick here, like this candlestick here, with the range of about $40, right? $40 range. That's what I want to see out of Costco, because that $40 range you get in like 2 days. You get a nice overnight swing. And I think that it's going to happen above this 530 level, right? Now, the only thing that I'm worried about is you see all the sellers that stepped in at the top of this candlestick. Draw it there. All the sellers that stepped in at the top of this candlestick here and brought price all the way down, made this massive candle, and then brought it down 4 weeks in a row to make new lows. 6 weeks in a row, making all new lows, right? Based off of all the sellers that are here. So I think that, and you can see they rejected here on this candlestick, and again here on this candlestick. So you know, so I think that there's going to be a big move coming out of it. I'll do a blue cross here. I'll do a green cross here. There's going to be a big move coming out of it. I can't really see it. Let me change it. And again, just looking at price action, you know, this yeah, that's fine. Looking at price action, the way this looks, I mean, you know, the bulls are in control, nothing crazy, but they are advancing price, right? They are advancing price. It's not like how LRCX is, where they're keeping price kind of in one spot and stuck, and then the other side's going to come take control. The bulls are very clearly in control. They're bringing price higher and higher and higher. We did form an indecisive week where we formed the inside bar on the week of this past price action. You know, the last Tuesday to Thursday or Tuesday to Friday, whatever it was. We formed that kind of inside week. So I want to see a continuation. We might not get a strong move until we get towards the top of this range, around like 540. Above 542.70 or so, that will give us a nice strong move into the 550, 560, 570. But I want to see a continuation for Costco. This can also be, let's go to the daily. This can also be a potential, based on how the price is moving right now. Let's do it like this. It's going to be kind of ugly, but potential rising wedge for Costco, right? Potential rising wedge. So, you know, obviously what that means is we get to the top of the wedge, right into this supply zone, and then we break down hard and maybe fall back into this support. Yeah, there's no way of telling. But let me just remove drawings. I'll keep this there just so that it's there for perspective. And you know, we fell out of that. We're slightly outside of that wedge, the longer scale wedge. You know, the weekly. So, but let's see. I mean, this is again very very strong candlestick. Look at this one here, very strong candlestick. Brought price back down again, and then we had the nice little gap down here. And it looks like it was prior to earnings, right? We had this, and then we had a gap down with a big strong move to the downside, big strong move to the downside, and then we had earnings, which gave us a nice little bull trap before it fell down hard. So let's see what happens with Costco. Apple's you know, Apple's one thing that's kind of contrary. Everything else formed an inside bar. QQQ had that inside bar. Apple's gonna be the one. I mean, you know, and Apple's the one that kind of holds the market. We have end of the week, month, and quarter on Friday. So, like these guys say, there might be some window dressing that occurs, which means, you know, things that are gonna be attractive go up. Now, seasonality for tech is usually very weak coming into July, and it starts with quad witching. That being said, you know, this is 1 week after quad witching, and Apple made a fresh all-time high. So I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. You know, this is unlike any market that we've traded in the past, or that I personally have traded in the past. It feels a lot like 2020, which is scary because, you know, the drop is coming at some point, or the chop rather is coming at some point. Now, I would love to see for Apple to kind of, it did it on this week. It kind of came down and retested this previous all-time high level as resistance and bounced on it, right, and formed a new high. So now I want to see it kind of do it one more time, fall in line with the rest of the QQQ, with Microsoft, with AMD, with Google, with Netflix. You know, bring the low down a little bit, like just slow down the momentum. This looks unlike any other chart right now. I mean, everything else is kind of like slowing down, and yeah, it is a green candle, and it's not very strong. However, it's still forming higher highs. You know, so I see a little bit of divergence there. I kind of want to see everything fall back into line these next couple of weeks. With seasonality now on tech side, I think that it would be a good time for tech to kind of recharge. You know, let's get to where things are expected. Let some of these other sectors, financials, energy, industrials, retail, let them kind of get some strength so that we get an overall strength in the market, right? Not just tech. Tech has been leading the market for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we don't want like a bubble in tech to burst and then the rest of the market just falls into a free fall. So I'm hoping that we get some action in some of these other sectors, as you will see in the rest of the watch list. Hold on, let me finish with Apple real quick. Yeah, I mean, strong move on Thursday, and then even a green candlestick on Friday when everything else was putting in kind of like a red candlestick. You know, a lot of these names were putting in red candles even on Thursday, and Apple's here with strength. So I just, you know, I think it just looks very different than the rest of the market, and I want to see either the market kind of turn around and work its way into what Apple's doing, or Apple kind of slow down and let the market catch up. One or the other, but you know, making a fresh all-time high. Making a fresh all-time high. We're still forming higher highs and higher lows. It did pull back after forming that new high, but it is finding support at previous resistance. Right, you see where kind of Apple's, let me just stretch this out a little bit. You see where price is consolidating here at the concentration of volume on Thursday's candlestick. So it's just kind of working its way there. Let's see if it bounces here on support, or if it kind of falls and tries to retest the low of day on Monday. But based on futures, I think it's going to continue to go up as long as we continue to trend upwards within futures. But Apple's really the barometer for me. It's always been, ever since I knew the connection. You know, why not? AMD has been completely in free fall ever since it made this recent high. We did come down to fill the gap. I mean, there's a little bit of room to put a full bodied candlestick between AMD's open last week and the close of this candlestick here. or sorry, AMD's open Friday in the close of this candlestick. There's a small little, tiny little gap. I mean, you can probably consider it filled. I just want to see a little bit more volume down here before it, and let the 50-day catch up before it might bounce up, or maybe it just falls and just continues to just go all the way down, right? Who knows? AMD is one of the ones that have been showing weakness. Now, it did form a high, right? Here's your high. Here's your higher low. Here's a higher high. And then we broke trend on this move down. But if you look at it from a different perspective, this can potentially just be, here's your low, here's your high, here's your higher low, right? It could just be that. So just keep it in mind. I think I missed all of AMD last week. I don't really like to play to the downside. But there was a lot of money to be made to the downside. As you can see, you could have just bought it here and sold it here. You know, swung it for a week and sold it at the end of the week if you wanted to. But I don't see AMD that way ever. So maybe I have to change my perspective. But we'll see what happens. For AMD, I mean, take the break of day high, and there's a potential pivot machine gun loading here. Let me remove all these drawings so that it's cleaner. Potential machine. And it needs to, it's not just like, oh, hey, there's a bunch of lower highs back to back, so let's just rip through them. Like, it's not going to be that easy. There needs to be some, either a catalyst, whether through NVIDIA talking about AI at Snow, or maybe Lisa Su comes out and you know, rips everybody's face, whatever the case is, right? There needs to be a good catalyst to give it that strong move. Once it breaks to the high of day and it breaks to this first high, then it can accelerate into the next high. From there, it can get through the 20. From there, it can get to the previous, right? That's how these things happen. But I do like the setup. Otherwise, I mean, if this thing falls, let it fall. Why not? Target the previous, the low, the closest low, and then we got the 50-day. The 50-day will probably catch it right at that low. There's a potential area for it to bounce, right? I'm sure there's some demand here too. Some demand right here too, especially with this consolidation here on this day. Price then kind of wiggled around it. Sellers brought it back down. Buyers opened it up and ripped it, you know, through the gap. So we'll see what happens with AMD, but nice clear targets, upside or downside. I like the upside just because there are more targets to the upside. The downside, that 50-day, especially with tech, 50-day usually is a tough spot to break. Next one's Amazon. So you see how it's like strong, big body, and then it kind of slows down. Then it has a doji, then it has a kind of a weak green candlestick, and then kind of now it's starting to form a big body again. That's what I'm looking for with who was it? With Costco for sure. You see like big body, and then it kind of slow. It looks like it's kind of slowing momentum down. I want to see that strong rippy candlestick coming out of that move. Who else had it? LRCX is another one. I want to see like, and obviously these are all red candlesticks, but the sellers are not in control here. They're not in control. Let's be very honest, because if sellers were in control, they would have undid all of this move and brought it right back into this box, right? They would have undid some of this move and took some of their, undid some of this price here and brought it right back to the 50-day. And it can still happen. However, I'm expecting, based on all this indecision here, all the weakness in sell pressure, I'm expecting this to rip to the upside at some point. So, and AMD and who was it? Amazon, great example of it. You see just like that strong move up, and then price gets nice and tight, little slow, slow momentum, and then strong move continuation, right? Next target for Amazon is going to be, I'm going to move this down to here, 133.69. Above that, we can see, let's call it 135. Above that, 136.49. 135, I think maybe in the next couple of weeks. Especially this is a strong enough move. Let's look at the 1 hour. Yeah, I mean, we had a nice strong gappy move, good continuation. Price came back down. You see where price is leveling off at the previous day's volume profile, this green line here. So, so if price holds there, then this can easily see that 133.69 level in the next couple of days, right? This level here, as long as this level here holds, this 120, let's just call it 129. As long as 129 holds, it can see 133.69 pretty quickly. Now, if it breaks down below that 127.92, then I can see it coming back to the low of this day here, which is at 125, where the 20-day moving average will probably catch it and act as support. So, let's see what it does. Break above the high, get to 133.69, break below this line here, which is where previous resistance was, get back down to the to undo the Thursday candlestick. Coinbase. Coinbase weekly. Coinbase weekly wedge, right? Coinbase weekly inverse head and shoulders, still intact. Coinbase cup and handle, strong handle. You know, we've been watching it on this wedge forever and ever and ever. I like this line here at 61.47, right where Coinbase closed. Is it? Let's see. Yeah. I mean, you know, it closed at 60.82, but it's just underneath that line, right? It's just at the line. So I want to see it kind of break above that line. I think there's going to be a strong move out of this break. We do have some resistance here. So those will be the levels to target for Coinbase. Again, Coinbase bull traps me every day, once a week, pretty easily. So just take it with a grain of salt. But the setup that I like on it is the inverse head and shoulders. On a weekly, I like the wedge. I like the fact that it keeps bouncing at that support level that I have. Right. I like to see where it's at. And we've been predicting this strong move for quite some time. So maybe this will be the week that it falls into fruition. Let's look at that hourly. AMD inverse head and shoulders 2 if it holds. I would like to see 110 hold and run. So keep exactly where it's at or get above that 110. I have my volume point of control here at 110.66 for the hourly. Right, just you see this one slightly higher than yesterday's, or Friday's is slightly higher than Thursday's rather. So let's just call it 110.65 ish or so. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of an inverse head and shoulders. We have this shoulder here. We have the head. Let's get above that 110. Try to retest this 114 level, maybe in the next couple of days, maybe in the first 5-minute candlestick. And then if it does pull back, I want to see it hold that 111 area, hold this previous resistance as support, and then from there it can rip, right? Rip. Good perspective on it. Blonde Broker, thank you for that. Yeah, I mean, you know, if you see something, like they say in the subway, if you see something, say something. And if you guys like the setup, a lot of the plays that I call out, maybe like 25% of the plays that I call out are when you all are like, yo, this is moving, that's moving, this is set up nice. That's, you know, I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Let's jump in this one. It just looks, it's too beautiful to ignore, right? So yes, I agree. There is a nice potential move with AMD as long as it does get above that hold above that 110. Let's see. Amazon, Coinbase, Meta. Meta's the only other one I think was Netflix a sit? No, Netflix was an inside bar. Yeah, okay. Meta is one of the only, and let's look at Google real quick. Google did not make the watch list this week. Google kind of looks like LRCX, so you know it'll stay on watch. But Meta is one of the few that, again, it's just been continuing strength, right? We formed a higher high than the previous week on the weekly. Same thing with Apple. We broke through last week's high and made a new high. So, you know, Meta is one of those that's showing a lot of strength. If you caught it anywhere down here or even down here at the 170 mark, you know, or even like over here at the 230 mark ish, or even like a couple weeks ago at 265, you're printing money, right? So I think there's a potential continuation. The only thing is now we finally filled that gap on a daily. Let's go to the daily chart. We finally filled this gap, right? We finally filled it. Now there is a nice strong volume gap coming from this last candlestick here, which was it opened up at 327. It closed at 316. It closed at 323, and then the very next candlestick opened up at 244. So big strong move from the bottom of this candlestick where price closed to the top of this candlestick where price opened. We did fill all of it for the most part. We did fill all of it. We do need to get in through this potential zone. It looks like a weekly, kind of a weekly supply zone based on the drop base of this candlestick and then drop of this candlestick. So first target for this, and again, we've been discussing this for quite some time now, but first target for this is 292.67, which will complete the Fibonacci, the impulse move from the first pullback here. You know, we were measuring it and we got that. We can probably release this I can probably get rid of this. Maybe next week I'll get rid of it, but I want to see that 292.67. I expect a potential reaction there, 293, let's call it. And then I think that Meta sees 300 the next couple of weeks. And then I think that maybe it does it, you know, one candlestick here, next candlestick into, it fakes some bulls above 300 and then it pulls back a little bit. And it gives us a nice little retracement, maybe test this 280, 289-ish level, pretty much form another candlestick just like that white candlestick right there. Do the same thing, you know, break 300 and then form a doji. And I have my final target at 322.50, which would put us right at the, you know, right above this. I think that's where the real supply zone is. It might be like on a 4-hour or a 2-hour or something. But Meta's another one that showed continued strength, made a higher high for the weekly, just like Apple. I want to see some of these other names do the same thing or maybe catch up this week. Or I want to see Apple and Meta kind of slow down a little bit. If Meta does slow down, I mean, I just let it hold. Let me get rid of some of these levels. Get rid of that one. You know, let it hold at 275, 276.57 level. If not, come down to 270 and find support where that 20-day moving average will catch up to it. Or just continue to rip everybody's face off. I mean, whatever you want to do, Meta. So it's your world. Oh, and you know what? Maybe with the Zuckerberg and Elon MMA battle, maybe there's something. Maybe bulls will bring the price up. Who knows? If he wins, the thing will go to 400, and if he loses, then it'll probably just stay exactly where it's at. That's Meta. Snow. I like Snow only primarily because, and you know, I think it made it on the watch list last week. And even though it pulled back, we did form an inside bar on Snow last week. But the most important thing that I like about this price action right now, that's what's gonna happen to Meta stock if Zuckerberg beats Elon. It's gonna rip. The one thing I like about Snow is, you know, resistance for 3 weeks in a row, 4 weeks in a row, a very, very strong resistance at this level. And then 2 weeks ago, price action broke through and closed above that resistance level. Now we did fail. We did open right at the resistance level and form a red candlestick to come back to test the 20-day. But then price came back and closed above where all this price was. All these opens and closes does not sound right. But above all of this area where price opened and closed here, right? We closed above it. So I think that there's a potential for this to base here for a day or two and then try to continue to work its way up. This has been the setup for Snowflake for me for a couple of weeks now, ever since I kind of saw it reject on this candlestick and then retrace it on this candlestick. I'm like, okay, this is a key level. So above that, let's call it 180. Get above 180, I think we can get to 190, above that 200. The 200 calls for July, I'm sure, are extremely stacked. So if you're interested, I would be looking at the 200 calls, maybe the 205 or 210s. I have a final target at 210 based off the Fibonacci move from this low here into the high of this candlestick here. So I think there's more upside for Snow, but again, it has to hold 180. I think we have like one or two more. Yeah, D-Dog. D-Dog is a very decent setup. Good strong move out of earnings. A lot of consolidation here before it gapped up, came back and retested that consolidation, bounced, didn't break down, kind of going sideways. The weekly has a nice falling wedge out of a flagpole kind of move. You see what D-Dog does. It consolidates and then it makes a nice move. This just looks like another part of consolidation where it's going to potentially make a nice strong move to the upside or downside. Now, and yes, we have Snow Summit tomorrow and video speaking there tomorrow at 5 p.m. So that's a good catalyst for Snow to break out, right? Depending on what they say, I mean, I'm sure it's going to be bullish. They're not going to go and be like, oh, our stock is shit, our company's shit. They're going to pump the company. They're going to make you feel good about the product, right? And Datadog will move on Snow whatever they say. Also, Twilio will move based on whatever happens in that conference as well. So I think that they're all set up, and I think AMD as well, right? Marvell, TSM, MU. These are all names that are poised to move based on whatever happens with NVIDIA Snow tomorrow at this conference. D-Dog has a nice falling wedge out of a bull flag. So there's a potential for it to, as long as it retakes that 20-day moving average, which is sitting there at 96, it can break out, get it to 100, 96 to 100 pretty quickly, above that 108, above that 110. For D-Dog. So it might be a couple weeks, it might be 2-3 weeks of a move, but as long as it gets above that 20-day, that blue line, I'm going to go ahead and add my alert. Once it gets above that level, I think that there's some action for Datadog. Royal Caribbean. This thing has been ripping insanely for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. We call it like the first or second week of the move, and I get bored with this name, with this whole sector. To be honest with you, I get very bored with it, but I can't ignore the strength. Right now, I like it a lot because it's sitting above this, or sitting right at this previous pivot. Price rejected here a bunch of times. Strong move down from here. Very decisively strong move down from this level the last time it's been here. So if we can hold this area here, and more importantly, get above that 99.95, so let's just call it 100. Above 100, RCL can get a nice strong move into 110. It might be a 2-week move, so it might be some July 110 calls in the future for us to swing if we like the strength, if there's nothing but good news coming out of the sector. I saw something about like Caribbean cruise line. I might have dreamt it. There was something going on where it caught my attention. Stifle adjusts RCL to 120, so that's strong. Dump these 3 overvalued blue chip stocks. And I see Tesla, I see Disney, I see RCL and CCL. So Investor Place is telling you to dump 3 out of the 4 of them. Who knows? Alphabet, United Airlines, other stocks that still have room to run. UAL, if UAL still has room to run, then RCL still has room to run. That whole sector, I think, has some space. Especially, I think this is the COVID gap down, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is COVID, March 2020. So we're finally undoing some of the price action that occurred from the COVID gap down. So if we can get above this level here, I think that RCL can accelerate to the upside. So I'll be watching it for this next couple of weeks. I think there's a few more. Let's see. Dropbox broke above a key pivot here, above all this resistance. Nice strong move, continuation move last week. Dropbox can see 27 pretty quickly. If you like it, go ahead and jump on the 27, 28, 29 calls. If you're going to do 28, 29, then give yourself a few more weeks worth of time. I would keep it as close to the money as possible. I find that that's just a solid strategy. You don't need to go too far to make money. Good consolidation, monthlies, right? We can turn this into monthlies. Let's do the monthly, 4-week candlesticks. And we have a nice consolidation, finally breaking out through the highs. And now we can continue to get to 27 pretty quickly. So I like Dropbox. I probably won't call it, only because unless I find a good strong chain in July that just can't be ignored. I think Dropbox is set to potentially make a nice move with Snowflake as well, because it's all data services. Dropbox is a very reliable company, very great user experience, great user interface, good security. I mean, what else can be said, right? So I just like to, I like the NVIDIAs and the Teslas. I'm like adrenaline junkie nowadays. So, but Dropbox might give us some money too this week. Let's see. DAL, Delta reports earnings this week on the 23rd. Oh wait, that's July. That's July. One of these people, one of the UAL or one of these guys report. One of these, who was it? CCL? Hold on, let me check before I spread misinformation. Let's see. CCL, Carnival Cruise Lines, reports tomorrow. Delta will move based on whatever Carnival Cruise Line says. Now, you see there's a bunch of pivots here above where we are now. There's a strong pivot at 46. I call it strong because it gave us a nice strong rejection here that moved into a downtrend. Above 46, we can target, what is this? This is 48. Above that, we can target 50. So I want to see a continuation. It really needs to, we got a kind of a strong move here. inside bar, potential 3-bar play on Delta on a weekly. It might turn into a 4-bar play, so don't just rush into it. If you do want to rush into it, go ahead and buy some time and buy as close to the money as you feel comfortable with, because it probably will take a couple more weeks to shake out, but it can see 46 and 47 in its future for sure. Especially if CCL reports well, RCL continues to move with the momentum it has, UAL reports well. You know, if the sector's strong, why not? I think this is my last one. Oh no, X. Strong bounce on rising support. Inside bar, nice clear target to 200-day. I don't think it's gonna break above the 200-day based on what it's doing, but nice strong move to the 200-day out of the break of last week's high. Strong breakdown below the 50-day as well as the last week's low will give us the previous week's low, which will put us at 21.99. So nice, clearly defined move, nothing crazy. Let's go to daily. I mean, it likes the 50-day. Look at it, it bounced off it 4 times. So if it does break above the high of Friday, then it can easily go and back to target the Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever day that was, the high of that day where that 200-day moving average is. And then from there might be a different play loading up. Otherwise, if it does break down below this 50 finally, it can come back and target the 21.99 and maybe even the bottom of that wedge. So I like X, as you all know, and maybe there'll be a play for us for it this week. Next one, last one, I think, is Palo Alto. You know, DYT's been screaming Palo Alto from the mountaintops. And then I saw a couple of other homies online talking about it. And I don't necessarily play. I think the premiums are overpriced, and I like to play. You know, and I think when I played it, I got chopped up like one of these weeks. But if you have the momentum on your side, you see what kind of candlestick it'll put in. Nice strong move to break all this resistance, kind of a resting bar, and then nice continuation, another resting bar. So we'll see what happens with Palo Alto this next couple of weeks. I think that snowflake will be a nice catalyst for Palo Alto to continue to move to the upside. If this does break to the upside, I want to see 275-ish. If it breaks to the downside, I want to see it come back to the 20-day moving average. Very simple play. Nothing crazy about it. You know, I think this week is giving us entry before it makes a strong move to the upside. And again, I'm leaning bullish only because, you know, higher highs and higher lows, right? Here's your high, low, high, low, high, low. Let's make a new high, right? It's time. And I think that's it. I know that we should probably look at Lulu. I was looking at it on the weekly, and the level that I want to see Lulu break out is above 384. Above 384 will show me strength in Lulu. I think it can get to 400 very, very quickly. But as you see, it's rejected this line a bunch, right? Here on this weekly pivot, here on this weekly pivot. It tested it on I think this was earnings week. It tested it here and then sold off. We formed an inside bar this past week. I don't want to get rid of some of these levels, man. I'm gonna have to clean this up another time. But above the high of the previous week, we can go and target that 400. Break down below. I mean, we got the 50-day right there, but I think we can test the bottom where the 20-day moving average is. For Lulu, but that 384.05 is going to be a very crucial level for Lulu to break out. Above that, it can really go hard. Let's look at Roku. And then guess who's next? Crocs is next. Let's see. Roku rejected this 71.99 level a bunch. This is going to be a strong level for Roku to break out of. When do they have earnings? Yeah, yeah. Let's see. It's catching support on the 50-day right now. I would like to see it bounce. Now, there is a potential, you know, this is the same setup as what we saw earlier with some of the other names where there's just back-to-back lower highs for a potential pivot machine gun if we get that catalyst that rips through. We'll see. We'll see what happens. The 50-day so far is really the 100-day and the 50-day are all sitting kind of right here. If it does fail below the 50, it might come in and test that 200, but that's fine. All these moving averages are consolidated. I think there's going to be a strong move coming out of this. Now look, I mean, sideways. Finally broke above the 200-day, like with gusto. Now coming back to kind of retest where it's at before it might continue to move up. Who knows? I mean, you know, this could be a really ugly cup and handle. There's a potential inverse head and shoulders here, right? Here's your shoulder. There's your head. Here's your other shoulder. Small little pullback. Could be a very wide cup and handle. Not sure. But all I know is that price has gotten higher. It's been trending higher so far. We got a new high here and a new higher low here. We got to form a new higher high first, and then there's a potential for a continuation. With Roku. Crocs needs to get above that 200-day moving average, reclaim Friday's price action, get above that 200-day, and work its way up. Crocs is, when do they have earnings? They have earnings in July, so nothing much going on there. Now, if it does fall down, I wouldn't be mad. Like if it comes to target this $100 mark, I wouldn't be mad because it looks like there's a potential demand zone there at the $100 mark where it can bounce and give us a nice strong move. But really the 50-day is, the 100-day, the 200-day is where we needed to focus its energy. This $106 mark is where we need to get above and trade above 106 before it can work its way up. I haven't looked at these options chains. I don't know how liquid they are. I feel like they only have monthlies, but I could be wrong. But let's see. Hold on. Oh, and I wanted to look at TSM as well. TSM, I think, was the last one that I wanted to look at. They are liquid. Weekly are pretty liquid. Okay, cool. I'll take a look at them. Maybe we have something there tomorrow or this week. Yeah, not much going on with TSM. I want to see TSM above the 20-day moving average, that blue line. Same thing, all right? Get above that 20-day. We are forming higher highs and higher lows, still holding trend even with this pullback. So above 20-day will show strength above this pivot here. This open and this close, 103 would be good strength. That would give me confidence in the fact that this is going to probably go back to retest that 109 if it can get above this this area here, this gray box pretty much. I just want to look at Google one more time. Weekly. Yeah, it's not terrible. Go on it real quick. This is probably gonna be my last one, guys. I like to do it from the bottom of the move. Yeah, it's strong move up, bouncing on that 61% fib, consolidating right underneath the 20-day moving average. So if it reclaims that 20-day moving average, I think that we can get to 127 pretty quickly. Above 127, we got that 130. I think that Google is just setting up for a continuation move. Look at, nice strong move, consolidation, nice strong move, consolidation. You haven't seen Google calls in a server for a couple of weeks now, so I think that it'll be in our future. I think that 140 is like an ultimate target for Google for me, 140-ish, right back where this kind of demand, this supply zone is here. Retest the supply zone. We got all the momentum, all the strength in the world to retest it. So yeah, that's it, guys. Thank you for spending your 1 hour with me here on a Sunday night in preparation for the market this week. Finally, another 5-day full week of trading. I don't like these short weeks at all. I'll be very honest with you. We got a nice full week of trading. We have our final week of the small account challenge. I think I'm gonna go ahead and extend that challenge, only because I've been getting a few people in my DM saying that they've been flipping their accounts relentlessly, taking these small profits, making us all very proud. So thank you for being here on the call. If you have any questions, holler at me. My DM is always open. And once again, good luck this week. Thank you, guys. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.